I know this is a big, broad question, but can you give me a quick overview of how the market is doing today?
Sure. Now, broad strokes are a good one. I'm using February stats because that's the latest we have. And of course, we're at the end of March. So the story could be a little bit different in 2 days than what I'm giving you. But the best information I have is from February. And February was economics 101, supply and demand. We had a real dearth of supply. There was nothing for sale and a huge demand. And as you've probably read in the paper and seen, prices just went crazy. And when it goes as crazy as it has, people get, the papers get panicky, and there's a lot of little games going on with pricing low and multiple offers. So, the focus seems to be on how much over asking things are getting, which is not the story as much as what's actually selling, what they're selling for. And for that, you need someone who can really interpret the market for you, because when you get the stats for Toronto Real Estate Board, Toronto Real Estate Board is huge. It's the entire GTA pretty much, Whitby to Milton and up to Barrie. When the overall market goes up, say it was 36% or something. If you look at the 416 went up about 27%. But if you look somewhere, maybe Durham was 47% increase, Peel was 40% increase. So depending on where you are, you need someone to sort of go from the macro picture down to your neighborhood micro pictures and see what's actually happening where you're looking to buy or sell. And even within smaller areas, 1 or 2 streets can make a difference. But when you're looking at the overall stats, the definition of a buyer's market versus a seller's market is usually 4 to 6 months supply. If we're in around that range, say 5 months worth of, what's for sale today, with the number of houses selling, if it would take 5 months for that to sell, that is a balanced market. If you got less than 4 months supply, it's a seller's market. If you have more than 5 or 6 months supply, you're in a buyer's market. Well, in February, we did not even have a month's supply. It was about 24 days. So that was really like an uber seller's market. And one thing to keep in mind for the last, I don't know how many years, when you go to fall market, it's easy. Fall market is like the week after Labor Day, depending on, say, Jewish high holidays and Thanksgiving, but it starts sort of at the same time every year. Spring market, what's spring? A lot of people in their head think the spring market is March or April. The last 8 or 10 years, spring market has been January, February, depending on the weather. And, so give people a few weeks after Christmas. And I've had quite a few houses where clients were going to list it in the spring. And I said, your house is kind of unique. If you really want to get the best bang for your buck, I'd listed the end of January and done really well with it. This year, that topic or that concept just went crazy because there was just such a huge demand. And then the sort of self-fulfilling prophecy too is because there's a lack of supply, people aren't listing because, well, if I sell my house, where am I going to go? There's nothing to buy. So it was sort of making it compounding.
Making things difficult for people that way.
Yeah. But the market is strong. We expect things to continue this way. I do think, though, that having said what I just said, now that March break is over and the private school March break is over, I think what traditionally happens is we will see more listings and that supply problem will ease somewhat. That's traditionally happens every March and April, May. Will prices drop? I don't think so. But the tenacity and the extreme part of it should normalize. Again, we can't control things like the war in Europe. We can't control things like interest rates that may be going up. And if another COVID form takes place and we end up getting into a variant or something, those are all things we just don't know. But based on how it feels now, we're just going into a spring market, which we should see more listings coming out. It's still going to be a very healthy market unless something changes that out of the control.
So given that it's still going to be a healthy market, you would still consider this still a seller's market.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So if that's the case, in the current market, how can you buy, or what's your advice in being able to get into the market without getting into multiple offers or paying well over asking? Like you mentioned just a little earlier, I turn on my computer and you see the news headlines.
Yeah.
In a house in Mississauga just sold for like $400,000 over asking.
Yeah.
Is that the real stuff that's
No.
going on?
Well, first off, I don't care how much of a business person you are, or you think you got nerves of steel. You're buying or selling something that is incredibly emotional. You're buying a home, you're selling a home. If you're buying it, this is where you're going to live. This is where you may be raising kids, or you're selling something that you've lived in, raised kids, or you've renovated, that you put your love and heart. You planted those gardens, you painted, whatever, or you had the renovation done. It is emotional. So there are things you can try and do, but let's say you want to do a bully offer. A bully offer, a preemptive offer means, a house comes out, you really like it. It's $2 million. It's going to go over asking. So you know what? I think for 2.4, I'd be very happy to buy that house. So I would approach the agent. We'd have a sign offer before we do that, other price in it. And then we say, would you accept an offer? Would your clients look at an offer? And they'll say yes or no. If they say yes, then we'll give it a try. Thing is, like last week, 2 weeks ago, I had clients who were looking for a condo, and the first day of the listing, I put an offer in. I was one of 4 bully offers, so it still was a multiple offer situation, right? And don't concentrate on the sale over asking. Some of them are legitimate. Wow, I can't believe that house sold for that. You and I just had that discussion earlier about a house in your neighborhood that I had sold years ago, and now it's just traded at an astronomical sum. But a lot, there's a game right now that's being played, which is pretty much almost most agents are doing because that's what everyone's doing. And if a house is worth $2 million, so listing it at $1.2 million or $1.3 million, of course it's going to get multiple offers, and of course it's going to sell at least $800,000 over asking because it's worth $2 million. Always was worth $2 million. I had friends of mine had invested, someone too. We had an investment property I was going to list, and it was just a 1-bedroom and den condo downtown. And one just like it had sold the month before, listed at $699. It sold for $860. Another one came out at $799, sold at $890. And a third one came out, listed at that price at $898 or something. I was going to the building to meet with the stager, and I ran into an agent who was about to show, and I said, "Oh, are you showing?" And she said, "Yes." I said, "Well, I'm getting the same one." She asked if she could see it. I said, "Absolutely." Well, I checked with the tenant, absolutely. And she brought me an offer within an hour, firm, no conditions. We sold for $910,000. Now, no one will ever know that sold. And the one that was listed at $898 sold for $900,000. So my point is, the two that underlisted to get this action still sold the same price as the one that was listed at the right price, and mine that was sold off market. Yeah. So quite often, most houses are going to sell where they're worth. Now, if it's a very special house and there's 2 or 3 people who just have to have that house, then that's when it goes crazy. Sure. So when you're looking for a house, if your price is $2 million, you look in the 2 millions, but you also have to look at the $1.1 million, $1.2 million, because they could just be $2 million houses priced at 1.1. So it's twice the work. And it's very frustrating for buyers, especially the more entry level a buyer is and the tighter their money, for them to look at a house I saw a condo that they listed at $899, sold for $1.4 million. It was worth at least $1.2 million, $1.3 million all day long. It should never have been in the $899, but that's where it was priced. So all these poor, excited young people who are looking to buy a $900,000 condo, this is great. hopefully they had an agent who said, whoa, 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 whoa. Something like that in this building, they're actually selling around 1.3 million, 1.4 million. So if that's not your budget, don't tempt yourself, because it just.
That's a really good point. So because what that I am with, like most people, do a lot of research on MLS, and you sit in there and you put your price range in that you can afford, and you search under that price range. But what you're telling me is that, there are people that are maybe putting houses in my price range, but knowing, or condos, but knowing that it's out of my price range after, because it's listed under. So it's a good point to have an agent point that out to you, to say these, you might have to broaden your scope in pricing, because you don't know where those houses are being priced in exactly, or they're playing this game of putting it on the market for $500,000 under what it's worth, just to put the sign up on the front lawn, sold over asking.
But also at the end of the year, though, Treb gives you your stats, and so if you've sold, and every agent's going to, and they want you to work with them, they're going to give you all these stats. I'm the number one agent in this, on the, 87% of my houses sell over asking. My average is 130% of asking price. Like, well, if you price it that way, that's going to happen every time. So again, stats, you've got to be very careful with stats, and they can be used or configured to,
show what you want.
Have you seen a house come out sold? We'll talk about this later, but buying something off market also is huge.
Okay, we'll hit that out. I got another question for you here. And again, anybody if you have any questions, feel free to hit the Q&A button at the bottom and type in your question. Of course, the last 2 years, we've been talking about real estate. COVID, we went through, COVID started, people started moving out of the city, and then people were finding, all the way up to farm country places to go somewhere else and work. Has COVID played an effect on the market?
Absolutely. In fact, it's played a lot of roles. Number one, as you speak, is when it first happened, real estate, like everything else, died. So we had a couple of months with nothing was happening. And as people got used to things, we got more into it, and the market came back and we got busy again. But what it did is, once we got 6 months or a year in our homes, no one going to school, no one going to work, people started assessing their homes. Either I just love this, I'm never going back to the office, or this is too small, we need more. Or the other one is, I don't have to be in Toronto. I can work from Belleville, London, I can work from the cottage. So what we did is we saw a large migration of people to small town Canada, small city Ontario, and cottage country and rural, and prices there have just gone through the roof. If you've got a cottage, you probably have noticed prices in the last 2 years, some places have doubled or tripled. And for local people, they blame the Toronto people, and they're quite upset in some cases, because quote unquote their kids will never be able to buy it. And you'll see the prices everywhere have gone up. But also people in the city have said, you know what, if we're going to be spending more time at home, I want to be in a better neighborhood or a different neighborhood. I can't live in this condo. I think it's time for us to get a house. So those filled in the people that were leaving Toronto. Another thing that COVID did is it quickly brought the technology that we needed to show properties with less intrusion, less people going into the houses if possible. So the visual tours, the Matterport tours, the photography, floor plans have become more important than ever. Now, really top agents almost always did these, and they've become, in the last year and a half, the quality has just gone through the roof. They're fantastic. And you can pretty much see a house without having to see a house. I sold one last week. My clients are still in Aruba. They didn't even come to see it, you know?
Cool.
The thing is that really separates, like, there are quite a few people who will list a property. They don't put measurements on the listing. They take pictures with their phones and they're dark and dull. You don't need that. And you're spending a lot of money to hire a realtor. So you want to make sure that you get the best. So the marketing stuff is available today. Everything from the quality of feature sheets, which we still do, which we didn't do at the beginning of COVID because of touching. The Matterport tours, which I'm not a huge fan of because I find them awkward, but they are amazing in terms of if someone's really technical and wants that 3D image of the floor plan in the house and walk room to room, they are really cool. And just the videos, the clarity and the quality, you can almost get a sense of a house from the photos and from the videos. But then once you see something that you really like, then you start making appointments. And the one thing I miss is the open houses. I know a lot of agents don't like them, but it's a great way to be with the people. And an agent's open house is a great way to introduce your new listing to all the other agents to see if it works for their clients.
Okay. Now, I know this is a question I get a lot of, but I would like to just get your perspective on it because you deal in this as well. Is just has the increase in interest rates had an effect on the market? Have you noticed it with pricing or with people purchasing that they've had to make adjustments on their pre-approvals or anything like that?
No, not the last increase rate. No, it was so minimal and the demand was still so much greater than the supply that it didn't really. I think what it will do though is urge people to get into the market, start buying sooner, as rates are, from all intents and purposes, are going to go up. I read something this morning that there could be up to 2 or 3 jumps before July. So even if the jumps aren't prohibitive, I think they are going to be encouragement for people to get in while they got their locked in periods, right? So if anything, it could do on a short term, encourage the market or do a little bit of a rush. If rates go up a lot, that would definitely have effect on slowing, especially entry level buyers. But don't forget, with the government's, you had to, even if you got this rate, you had to do the stress test, right? So there was always a little bit of leeway built in for this reason specifically.
No, good point. And
that's why you should also have a really good banker and or mortgage broker or someone you can really count on, and your realtor should have access to that if you don't.
I definitely agree. I will always say to everybody to get pre-approved first, to know how much they can
100%.
purchase, because as you mentioned earlier, buying a house is an emotional thing, and you don't want to get caught up in a bidding war and put yourself underwater or give yourself too much stress just trying to carry the debt. So I'm gonna skip one of the questions there because I think we went through some of it before. So in today's technological world, like as I mentioned, I'm one that surfs. I've surfed MLS and I look at whatever House Sigma, all kinds of apps that are out there. Are licensed professionals still needed? Like using an agent?
Absolutely. I heard one of our head of our marketing had a great line the other day that people don't want to trust their most personal and largest asset to an algorithm. They want, because the algorithms and these websites, they can't take in. They have no idea of what's sold off market. They have no idea about local influences that can make something worth even more money or worth less money 2 blocks away, right? So there's a lot of things, interpretation that they can't do. They're very helpful. They're great tools. There's some amazing websites, and agents use them as much as the buyers and sellers do. They're really great tools. I don't know if I'd want to rely on them. And I know it's funny when you've got, especially when you've got really high-end property, and you can tell the agents who are working, there's these systems where they're sent leads. They have no idea who these leads are, and they're showing these properties. They haven't got a clue what the person they're showing is really looking for, if this place is even appropriate, and I always shake my head because there's something about, because you're buying personal taste, and you have to know your clients, what they're looking for. And likewise, when you're selling, you want someone who you want in your home, who you absolutely feel you trust is going to represent you in your home, and you're comfortable having them in your home, and you're entrusting your home and your assets in your home to them to keep safe and to market them to the best that person can. And it's just some things that a human being is the best way to do it.
I think you and I had a conversation about a week ago, as you were mentioning to me at one point. I might get it wrong, but correct me, is that there's something like 70,000 real estate agents licensed, but only, I don't know, only 20,000 actually do it for a living. The other 50,000 only don't even sell a house, or only sell one house a year, or something like that.
We are right now at 68 or 70,000 realtors in Toronto. And from all predictions, that's going to go up another 30 or 40% in the next 2 or 3 years. It's outrageous. When I started, there were 12,000. There is a good 50% that might sell one house a year. And there's about 50% or more that might sell two houses. So there's just a plethora of agents out there. And there's a lot of agents that will offer you, I'll do this for 0.5% because I got to get business. That's how I can do business, right? If you don't have a realtor, your absolute best is to talk to friends or family who have had good experiences and they trust the person that look after them. Almost all my business is referral or repeat clients. It's really important that you do trust, because there's a lot of people that, when you're dealing with other agents, you want to make sure. Some of them we have some amazing agents in Toronto. Like I've been, as I said, 32 years. There's so many agents that they're great, and you're doing a deal. That when they come to you with an offer that is bona fide, and their clients, they know them, and it's not adversarial. It's there to make their clients happy and your clients happy. But then you get others, and you just got to make sure that paperwork's right, because you don't have a sense that they know what they're doing, or so you got to be really, really careful that the person you're using has your best interest. And just like people who are they want to go with the listing agent, they think they're going to get a deal. Go with the listing agent because you think they're really good at what they do and they're going to look after you. Because at the end of the day, they've been hired by the to list the property, sell it.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, make sure I would summarize, say, choose somebody who's doing this as their profession and not as something part-time.
Yeah.
So I would tell everybody, do their research
and interview people if you want. Absolutely. If you've got 2 or 3 names, interview them and ask them questions that are relevant and personal to you.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point too. Now, sometimes, I'm talking to clients and I have a group of clients that are in retirement, and they look back, or they're about to retire, and they look at their kids that are, starting out in their 20s or early 30s. And they turn to me and they say, how can our children ever be able to buy a house? Sometimes I do get clients giving gifts. What do you see as a professional showing and listing places? What would you look at? What would you say or suggest for what you see in your industry with the younger crowds, I'm going to say 35 and under?
Okay. Well, first off, there are a number of younger people who are doing very, very well, especially the spike in tech jobs in Toronto and everything. We do have a lot of young people who are making very, very good money, and they're very smart, and they're buying stuff on their own. They're amazing. But by the same token, the baby boomers is going to be the largest passage of money ever in history, right?
Mm-hmm.
Traditionally, you work hard, you build your estate, then you die. And when you die, your estate gets divvied up amongst whoever you've chosen to give things to. Well, today what we're seeing a lot more of is people are giving before they die. And if they want to make sure that their kids can get a house, quite often parents have to help. That's just the market we're in now, and that's where Toronto has become as it grows, and it's become a world-class city. And there's different ways to do that. And when there's some of the things I'm going to suggest, you need to work in concert with your professionals, right? And that could be a team of your wealth manager, your estate planner, lawyer, accountant, realtor, depending on what your assets are and what you're proposing. I've had parents buy houses outright for their kids, especially if they're single and they're worried about matrimonial home situations. I've had them just give the kids the money for the house, hold the mortgage, pay all of or part of the down payment. The down payment is the big part. Carrying the mortgage, with rents the way they are in Toronto, carrying the mortgage for the most part is not that big a deal. And young people have no hesitancy of $1 million mortgage. It doesn't scare them at all. It's just like, wow. And we also have to start thinking, that whole white picket fence with a backyard, not everyone's going to be able to get that anymore, at least not in Toronto. So if you're wealthy enough, yes. But what you may have to do is you either broaden your horizons, and you may have to move to Georgetown or Burlington or Whitby or Innisfil, or you may have to go up. And there are families now raising kids in condos, and very happily. And I've got some fairly wealthy clients, and their kids have all been raised in condos, and they have a great life, and it's what they know, and they're very happy. So our expectations have to be tempered by what we actually can afford, or what we're actually willing to do to help our kids. And again, you have to talk to your professionals about capital gains implications. If you put the house in your name, then you're going to have a capital gains problem. If it's in their name and someone comes along, there could be a matrimonial home, and if there's a problem, you could lose half the house. So there are definitely some things to talk to your mortgage broker too. Bankers, if you have a good mortgage broker, I know we work with a couple, they're just incredible. They will help you too, and it's a team effort to get you the best spot.
No, I happen to agree with you. I think for the hardest part for a lot of the younger crowd is getting the down payment,
And emotional.
I've worked with many of my clients being able to get their sons or daughters to get their down payment, financing it, and like you said, with $1 million, it sounds like a lot, but the way to carry $1 million, it could run anywhere only like $3,000 a month, and that's as much as rent is. So it makes sense, but getting that 20% down, that $200K, is the tough part, especially when you're trying to have fun and enjoy a little bit of life as well.
And back to the emotional part too is, I've had some friends or clients who have helped out their kids, and they're just so happy to see the money that they worked for actually seeing their kids enjoying, because hopefully parents will always maintain a very comfortable lifestyle and have what they've built. But if they have the opportunity, the joy of watching their kids or grandkids get to enjoy something instead of waiting till you're gone, and then they get something, that is also hard to put a value on. But I've had a lot of people who are just so excited to be able to do that.
You're absolutely right. I sometimes use the line with clients, it's that are in that position to do, say, an early inheritance. It's better to give with a warm hand than a cold one.
Yeah.
Because I find it, I love it when clients do that, and it's nice. It puts everybody, you get to enjoy it, like you said. It puts a smile on everybody's face to see how you could help out.
Can we go back a little bit to? I just have a thought, because I know it was a concern of yours a while ago. When we're talking about multiple offers, one thing that people need to really be careful is set your budget, and once, not just on what you're going to buy in the next few months, but when you're going in on a multiple offer, set your sight. To me, this house is worth X, and try really hard not to go over it. Try not to get too emotional. It's hard to do because it's an emotional purchase, but there's some people, I've seen some people go, they get really upset. I'm not paying that person a penny more because I think they're being greedy. Well, you know what? If you do an extra $10,000, you got the house. It's 10,000 on $1.8 million. Like really, like don't make an emotional decision that you're going to regret. Likewise, don't get yourself, as you say, underwater, and all of a sudden you bought a house for $3 million and you really can't afford more than 2.7. It's tough to do, but you have to try and keep your emotions somewhat in check. And another house will always come along if you don't get that one. It may be a while, but another house will come along.
Yes, good point. Thank you for that. Going into, I know we spoke houses and stuff like that, and I know you just mentioned in the last one, people are raising families in condos. I think that's more of a Canadian thing that we have to get past because it happens every day, like in New York City.
Asia.
Yeah, so we're creating those condos. We're having multiple bedroom condos. Now, talking about those, is it wise, or what are your recommendations on buying pre-built condos?
Pre-built, considering that Toronto's the third largest construction site in the world, or fourth largest, and there's more cranes in Toronto than New York, Chicago, and Miami combined. It's crazy. There's a lot going on. Is it smart? Of course it's smart. But again, working with your financial advisors and what your plans are down the road, because when you buy something that's going to be finished 3, 5, or 7 years down the road, you've got to have a plan. It's not going to cost you much up front. You're just going to pay your deposit. And at the end of the day, you'll probably make money. But it's still, like everything, it's a risk. What if in 7 years the market takes a turn? What if after 5 years that builder can't build it for what he promised? He closes it down, like there was a bunch in Markham 2 years ago. Don't ever think it's a slam dunk, I'm going to make money. It's still an investment with a certain amount of risk. So you have to go in aware of this. No different than buying stock or anything else. You have to know that there is risk. There are also countless builders now. When years ago, you could just name them all, Urban Corp, Triadel, Minto, Pinnacle. I mean, there were a dozen. Now there's dozens, and some are fantastic, some not so fantastic. And how many times you've gone down the street and you're like, that building wasn't there 2 weeks ago, like don't go that fast, but you really want to get to know. I mean, I showed a condo last week, 8 or 10 years old. They already this year had to replace all the boilers and all the elevators. It just disaster. And it went way over. My clients backed away. We just weren't comfortable. And there are some really fantastic buildings, really good builders who do fantastic work. Some of them, like say Tridel, you definitely are going to pay more for it because they're worth it. You get what you pay for, and it's a good way to invest for the future. So don't do it without a plan. And if you need your advice of your financial planners who are handling your money so that it works in concert with what you're doing in other things, it can be a great investment. A lot of people have made a lot of money. And you also have to be careful too that you're truthful, especially CRA is really clamping down on things like people who buy it and never were planning to move in, and then they're flipping it and not capital. The CRA is really looking. So you cannot avoid taxes. I'm telling you, they are really doing they're knocking on neighbors' doors. Did Joe Smith actually live here? Did you ever see them? Like, it's that personal. So just be careful what your intentions are and what your ramifications in terms of taxes or everything else will be, and you'll be fine. And we'll take an agent with you. Then you got someone representing you. So when you go into the showroom, don't go in without them, go in with them, and then get someone who knows new condos. And our office actually has a whole division just for new, and we only concentrate on buildings that we are very comfortable with our good builders who are building good quality stuff.
Good to know. Good to know. Also, for those that are looking to buy something cottage country, you know, somewhere else, maybe out of the country and stuff like that. Like if I were to come to you, I know we've dealt together, we helped, you're in the GTA, and then if I came to knock to your door and said, John, I want to buy something out in cottage country, can you help me out? Can can I use you to do something like that for me?
You absolutely can. I wouldn't advise it, but you can.
That's
But I don't think it's in your best interest.
a
Um,
great, okay. Explain why.
well, there's nuances in each market that, in fact, I got a call yesterday from an agent who sold something out of town and doesn't want to go to do the purchase visit. And I said, well, you did the business, that's part of the job, right? So they're going to try and find a local agent to do it for them. And local agents are very upset with these Toronto people coming in thinking they know everything. And I do know of a story, a mutual friend of ours told me this, in Thunder Bay. There was a house on the market. It wasn't selling, one of the most expensive houses in Thunder Bay. Came off market, came back on at a new lower price. Toronto agent came up all the way to Thunder Bay, said to their clients, oh, this is amazing. You have to come in over asking first day before anyone else steals it from you. And they bought it at the price it was at before, not knowing that it had been on the market before. And everyone in town is just laughing at them. And then if you get a cottage country, you've got riparian rights, you've got septic tanks, you've got setbacks, you've got a whole bunch of issues you don't have in the city, right? And if you take a listing, how are you going to service it? I'm going to drive all the way to Oakville or all the way to London, or no. So what I do is I have connections all across Canada and the world. Actually, our office has we have 7 or 8 exclusive affiliates all around the world. I'm in contact as recently as the last couple of weeks with agents, Montreal, Arizona, the Caribbean, Florida, all across Canada. I got a referral last week from an agent in Squamish for someone here in Toronto wants to sell their house and they're moving to Squamish. So I will refer somebody. I get a referral on their commission or a split, and the client is looked after by someone who knows that market and knows the kind of properties that are being sold. Likewise, coming back into us.
So choosing somebody who knows the area and familiar with the properties and the nuances, like you said, with like septic tanks and setbacks and
But if you
water,
trust your
water
agent,
frontage, if that's something of an issue.
yeah. But also my point is, if you trust your agent here in Toronto and you really want their involvement, call them, and if they don't know, they will get someone for you that is like them, who they trust. And they can also be involved, quite often when I do a referral to, somewhere else, they'll call me and say, John, this is what so-and-so is doing. Are you happy? What do you think of this? If they want my feedback, by all means, you know what I mean? But the important thing is that I can get them somebody that will take good care of them and work like as close to as me as they can.
That's great. And that's a good resource to have, because if depending on where you're looking at, as long as you know that, as professionals, you guys are connected in some way, and that you've had basically your office has done that due diligence in advance is great knowledge, instead of having to do all the research all over again with interviewing agents in that area. Oh, perfect. So those are the questions I have, and I think you've done a spectacular job, John. Thank you for taking your time going through this. Again, I'm going to repeat one more time here to everyone that if you have any questions, feel free to tap the Q&A button as we are concluding our webinar right now. If you'd like to ask John or myself any questions with regards to real estate, or if there is a section or a topic that we did not comment on during our Q&A discussion, please do so. This will be recorded and you can watch this again at any time, or you could forward this to any friends or family. I also would recommend anybody to keep calling if they needed to contact John if they needed anybody for their real estate needs, or Harvey Kalles as well. The firm, it's done very well for a lot of people that I know. So we'll give it a couple seconds here. I don't see any questions popping up. I'm personally, John, I'm going to take that as a good thing, because
Hope so.
we must have hit a lot of good topics there, or answered those questions that were burning in people's minds. And
There's
we
one
got-
question.
no, well, we got a thank you.
Oh,
There's a thank you from a colleague. That is
my,
great.
thank you.
And I want to thank you also, everybody, for joining. We will be posting this, and you'll be getting copies of this recording as well. And if you ever need anything for real estate needs, again, John Fortney, Harvey Kalles, or if you need somebody for mortgage brokerage or any financial planning information, feel free, give me a call. Me and my staff is happy to help you. Thank you again, John. I really appreciate it. And you have a great evening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.